So again, the goal here is that we've taken the coin collection game from the 1306 class and we've upgraded that lab um, into replication. Jacob, you want to just come take a look right now? So this is where it is right now. So let me grab the other window right now. I'll start with this player. And they, can run around, and I don't have the sound on to the moment, but it is, you know, where did it go? There it goes. And then one of the things that we can do right now is I can hit tab and I need to do, so basically get the name in here. I'm just going to call them Bob. I'll click update name. I'll actually hit return and oh, hit return here. And it basically, you can see that my second player got the stuff. And then over here, oh, what I'm not doing is I'm not clearing out. So I can, again, hit tab. And I need to change the text on that, but you can see. So the one thing is that both players can reset the game. What I haven't done is gone through and do reset the player's score and items collected. By, so again, you can see here, basically both players can restart the game. We had a discussion earlier with you, Rihanna, about effectively that this may not be the game design we want, but it is the pattern. Basically, it's the upgrade from the single player game that were. That's the goal, was to upgrade that from the single player game. Not necessarily we would keep this. And there's a lot that we would want to do. Probably want to. Well, again, when game over, basically we want to basically go back to like our essentially a lobby, join state. Um, so there's application game design things that also connecting to um, a server we haven't done yet. That's one of the things we'll be looking at, and that's the next thing we'll be looking at is setting up. I'm hosting. I'm connecting to a game. Those questions we haven't addressed yet as well, but we have something up and running that we could now build on top of that to add those pieces. Um, let's go through. So the first thing that we did, um, the collection game, I basically put the core classes in here, and basically this is, again, game mode and the collection pawn were the two classes that came in here. Two new classes, game state and player state. So game state is basically so the issue that we have is that the game state only runs on the server. The clients have a faux copy, but it's not authoritative. It's there to help simulate things on the client side, but it's not again authoritative. So ultimately, what ends up happening is that anything that needs to be replicated needs to go into the game state, and we go here. Basically, we have time remaining and is game over got pulled into here. The the amount of time that still stayed in the game state. But we go look at the other one is the player state. Basically, in here we're going to track three things: the player name, player score, and the item count. And that's basically that's the player state in a nutshell. Um, this is again the each players they have their own player controller which they control. But ultimately, the issue that we're at hand is that anything that like needs to be relocated to everyone else is going to be in a player state effectively. Um, a lot of we've got to do things on the server. So basically, let's take a look at the HUD got updated. Let's take a look at that quickly. So I made a panel. Basically, let's just bring this up quickly. It's basically a panel here. And where's the text. Text is. I'll have to figure out why it's. We'll worry about text later on. But basically, I made this widget right here. And so basically, the HUD, and this has, when we go to its graph, basically on clicked, I'm getting the player controller, I'm getting the player state, casting it to the correct player state, and then calling up the update player name event. And that's a server event. And again, I'm getting the text field, getting its text, and passing it as the new name. So far so good.
So far, so good. You're getting the text field, posing it as the new name.
And then
Okay.
basically here's the player name, passing it to here.
Right.
Each of these are replicated. Why is this owner only? I'm not going to worry too much about that. But here's player score, player count. They're all these variables are all replicated. And in the game state, time remaining time, they're just replicated. And I didn't basically do anything special with them. I didn't do a replication notify. I just basically said this variable is being replicated when I make an update to it. So let's take a look at the game mode right now. So the two functions I've made here is in the time uh, get set time in game state and get time in game over state, and that's basically setting the variable and then getting the game state and pushing it into the game state. And we'll do. You can see this for the game over. Same thing for the game over state as well. And I'm using these functions to set the local variable as well as setting the game state variable version of it. So I'm still keeping, again, if we go back to my collection game, all I've got now is get the remaining time, which is set on the that default value is 0. That should be 5. No, sorry. Starting time is 30. There we go. So remaining time, game over. I still have a version here, even though I'm not necessarily using it. The start game method got changed up because basically I'm basically pushing game over and time in. I guess grabbing starting time and setting it. And then here's the set timer by function name. So nothing news here. In the clock, the big change is that set time in game state is being used again here. And then over here, when we need to set game over, we're turning that on using the function.
You're using a less than or equal to for the true condition, right?
Yeah, less than equal. Nothing's
It was
changed.
difficult to see because of the
Yeah,
red light.
no, the big change is that rather than setting the game state directly to the game mode, we're using this function to set it in the game mode and the game state. And again, we've got to get time here and then game over here as well. So those are the only two big changes. Again, clock is set here as well, being cleared out here as well.
And just to make sure I understand this, the game state is what's handling all the interactions between the players and the objects and
Yeah, let
whatnot.
me. I haven't gone into the HUD yet, so let me see. I don't need the player panel open anymore. Don't need the player state. Don't need the game state. Let's just take a look at the pawn just quickly. So enter is what basically is basically controlling how we restart the game. I basically have made a server call. So here's an event server call restart game, and it replicates run on server, and I made it reliable. So I'm basically when I hit enter, I'm making the RPC call here, and here now we're on the server restarting the game. And then tab basically is just basically opening up the toggle the player panel, which I wrote as a function because it's kind of convoluted. And basically, if it's visible, I'm hiding it. If it's hidden, I'm making it visible. So, just going through. I actually do want to go back to the game state. Okay, so yeah, game mode. Uh, where's the start game? Here's the start game. Start game did get a change. So basically, again, I'm setting game over state, setting the time in state. I thought I was doing something else here. I'm not gonna worry. See the clock. We looked at that. Add collected item is the one thing that got yeah, had a big change. So basically, I have the collected item and also who picked it up. And one of the things I'm doing is I'm casting it to the player state, and I have a local variable of. So this function has a local player state. I'm setting a local variable here, and that's going to make this section through here easier. So again, I'm adding to the player state. I'm setting the player score on the player state. I'm getting the score here, adding what's awarded, setting it back here, and then again, you can see the player state made this much easier, adding the item count. So this is again, I'm pushing. Basically, I have to ask who I picked up the item so I can get the player state related to them. And it's an item. Oh yeah, a pawn reference. So so I made sure this was a pawn reference essentially. So not every willy-nilly object can be put in here. Again, this is still an object reference, but it's still the item. Actually, it's BB collectible. So, but again, if we go back to, so that means let's go to the items. Uh, so on begin overlap. So this is something that I don't think you guys saw. So I solved the problem with the teleporter. Essentially, I have a just do once node in here, so
Right.
it gets the first event, but doesn't do the second, and then on tick, I'm just resetting it.
Right.
Casting it to pawn, and then I'm getting the game mode. So basically, here is the target is the game mode. The collected item is itself, and who picked up is what's being cast.
Right.
And then I call clients due on taken, and it just ended up not necessarily being what I need to do. This ended up not being. I didn't really matter in the end. But the problem I had with on taken, um, effectively was that um, I would call on taken would be called, but by the time replication kicked in, um, the events that we needed to do, basically play sound and the explosion, weren't happening. I knew that this specifically was happening, but the sound of the teleporter moving around did happen. So that wasn't so when I didn't destroy the object, it would do what it needed to do, and when I needed to destroy the object, it wouldn't do the client side. The clients wouldn't have enough time to get to it. Would The object would have been removed before the clients had a chance to do the location, the sound, and the emitter. So I effectively moved them to the event destroyed. And by doing that, when the object was destroyed, locally, the client then proceeded to do what was here. The other thing that I did with the collectible was under replication. Um, Basically, I turned on replicates, and I also turned on and that worked for most of the objects except for the teleporters. I needed to turn on replicate movement in order to get them to move correctly on the client. It was interesting. I could run around the map, and the client the standalone client could could run over items and effectively pick them up, but wouldn't have them do anything on their own. Yeah, it was very weird. Until I did replicate movement, the teleporter objects wouldn't move at all, but they would move on the server, and I could run where they were on the server and effectively have an interaction with them, and they would move again on the server while not moving on the client. So that solved that issue. let's take a look at and then I didn't have to do anything with the teleporter or the time orb at all once I made those fixes. All right, let's close collectible game mode. Let's go to the HUD. And the HUD is still, so let's look at so on begin play, basically, I'm basically getting the game state. I'm actually now getting the game state, and I'm creating the widget for the player name panel. I'm setting the widget, adding the viewport, and I'm hiding it to start off right away. Then I have the event receive draw HUD. Basically, I'm using the game state and basically getting that, um, making sure it's valid. Then I'm getting is making sure it's valid. There was a scenario where this would not be valid on like the first frame, so that's why we're doing this here. And then I'm getting game over, and it's a branch, and it's basically drawing game over HUD, game HUD. Game over HUD, I believe, basically, let's just bring that up, hasn't changed at all. The game HUD is where a lot has changed. Um, so basically, I am getting the game state and getting the time remaining, and drawing that on screen. On the other hand, I'm getting the game state, and then I'm going to the game state to get the array of players. So essentially, this is going to be an array. So basically, the game state has an array of the players connected to the game. And we're going to use that and basically, I'm using that to my advantage to go through to draw each player info. So I'm looping here. I'm basically what is the array element, the current player state that I'm working with, and then I'm passing the array index to this idea of lines, so that because I've got a mathematical calculation. So we go to draw player info. It's a bit convoluted. So I'm basically casting from player state to object reference. I'm casting it here to this local variable seek, and then I have this calc y. It's basically takes the line, multiplies it by 25, add 70, and then add 75 to it. And these are values that I probably should have. I should have variables in the class. I'm just too lazy to have done that at the moment. But that's basically saying where, like, again, actually would do, I'll do 20. I'll set this at 80. Bring this in a little bit tighter. But basically, I'm saying where on the Y are you drawing that is basically what this is doing. Let's go back to the other one. I'm setting the Y. I'm setting the Y here. This is so I can plug it in easily across these. So I know like this is 200, and this is an order I probably should fix. I should probably do this one first, then this is second, third. While I'm here, I'm actually going to change the color back all of these to white to make my life easier. And I'll be honest with you, I probably should be. There we go. I should probably, and I'm doing these three different draw texts. I should probably really be using a single append and draw this all. So that's there's things here that I'm not doing that I probably could. And again, I'm also just drawing the text brute force style. Eventually, this would just be draw to basically do a widget essentially. So I'll save that. Save the collection HUD because I made some changes. But yeah, it's basically here is drawing the player name. I'm drawing the score and then I'm drawing the item count after that. But in this case, I'm going to the player state, getting the player score, getting the item count, and then down here getting the player name. So I'm getting those three values out of the player state to draw on screen. I think that's everything. again, the what one of the things that to be aware about is that the player state is read only on the client side, but is can be changed on the server side. So that's why we go back to the this HUD piece. We go to the graph. Here is again. Here is the update player name, and it's a the RPC call that goes to the server and does performs on the server. And it's replicated to server if owning client. And then again, the HUD this here is being held by the owning client, um, so that is it suits this situation. Again, we go back and we can press play. And I also have multiple player starts and little platforms to stand on.
in case there are more players.
Yep, I did test with four. The problem is I ran out of video memory doing all four at the same time. And I can go and
Understandable.
hit tab. And I'll say Bob. And over here, love game. And now I think I've got everything. Like again, once we got like the once I did, was there anything I needed to do? I made sure again on taking I did make sure that I was running it on the server. The one thing is I did make sure I ran that on the server because the the basically the teleporters are moving. So I wanted just by doing making sure that I do that event in that particular way, I am ensuring that on taken is always being run on the server as opposed to something on the client. And this is one of those. Ideally, this would I probably would want to kick this off to um, on the server, and then if there was something I wanted to do on the clients after that fact, I probably should be kicking it off to another event that basically is broadcasting to the clients. Yeah, if you've got something you're on the server you're working on the server side and you want to make sure that all the clients get a piece of information, you do use multicast to send them that information to the client. Is there anything I haven't hit? Um, just in editor preferences. It's just basically to set up. Uh,
Monitor play,
yeah,
play
it's
quiet.
just down. I basically made these 320 by 240 to make them smaller. Um,
Also, you go under multiplayer options, play as listen server. Never worked on that.
yeah, and the other thing is down client. I made sure that play as listen server. I'm all running on one process, and then yeah, number of clients too. That's the only thing that I did. What about 320 by 240? Yeah, let's go press play. There we go. Yeah, there we go. That's what I wanted for another window. And again, I need to really basically rebuild this with a widget. That's actually the next thing I probably should do is to rebuild this with a widget to show how that. Yeah, basically rebuild it with a widget so that we could see um, how that should be built. And then the other thing is we would again replicate not just the game over, basically that game over Boolean is to actually use a again where we went with the HUD is basically um, we use an enum instead because it was we were either in the main menu, we were in the main menu, we had a game state and then a game over state. And ideally, the main menu is again that player panel would pop up there where we could adjust our player name there as opposed to like in the middle of the game. So we could set our name. Ideally, I'd like to like set colors on these robots.
if possible.
Oh no, it's just a material change.
Well, I mean, like they don't exist yet. Is the thing.
Yeah, but hold on. Let's go to what I'm talking about. So basically, it's just so basically it's either let's go back to the viewport. So I've basically I think this is the element. Let's just basically it would be so so no that's not the element I want. Here we go. So that's the material change I'm talking about. So that I'd change this element. So I'd pick a couple materials or pick make something that I can affect. And so basically so I can set a color on these so I can separate these out.
Right. One question though.
Okay.
This will have now all of the pawns will have gold on them.
Oh, currently yes, but and I'll go back to this. But what I want to do is basically what we and I'm gonna just go back to the players. So let's go to the player state. And for right now, I'm just gonna just make a I'm just gonna call this player color. I probably is probably a color, yeah. So here is I can probably set a color here,
And then have that be like
and then player color. We can set this to be right now. It's want that full. We'll say we'll set this to red.
on begin overlap. It could.
No. This is visual.
Uh, okay.
Yeah, this is so we now have a, and I'll make this an instance editable.
I'm trying to just think how
The
to.
idea is that we are setting a color in the player state, and based on that color, we can then set a material. One of the things that we can do is one of the things. So what you haven't seen, what you haven't seen is that there are material instances. So let's go back to the. Let's close stuff here.
I
Hold on.
okay. I will let you do your thing.
Okay, so the material that we're dealing with right here, and this actually is an instance already, is the MI Quinn 02. So let's go take a look there. Here we go. So this is actually a material instance already. Here we go. Let's look at hierarchy. Where's the graph? Oh, here we go. So here is like a base color. Here we go. We can parameter groups. We can, in theory, turn on the tint. So we could then say, hey, shove that tint, give it the tint. Which means I have to make a color picker. So here we go. Again, we go back to the collection pawn. You can see that, and I just have to figure out how to get access to
Tint
the
value.
tint value.
Or perhaps you make copies of that element with different tints
No, no,
and
no, no,
set the
no, 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 no,
material
no, no. We're
using.
no, no, no. We're not making separate materials.
Or not.
No, we're basically we have a parameter that we're going to set on the material
On the material.
on the instance. So this is an instance of that material. Again, we're dealing with an instance of the material, so we can change that on the fly as we see fit.
Okay.
That's the purpose. Wow, it actually looks cool with the red already.
Yeah.
I don't have gold on them.
I know.
Of course, at Mass Effect, I went with they did, and like Mass Effect does this. They have tints that you can pick. Basically, they have materials where they've got a preset of colors that you can pick. Um, and I basically went in and made basically Spider-Man 2099.
Yeah,
That's
I don't blame you. That suit looks really good.
that looks really cool. That does look really cool. Heck, let's take a look at Quinn. And it's a material too. Yeah, we can turn on tint. Say, okay, well, I'll click OK. We can go back to. So yeah, now we have an Iron Man looking character. But we could have easily gone back and we could have done like a blue. We don't. Player state. I don't need. Save all the packages. Oh, why are you not compiled? Okay. So now I've got something Spider-Man looking.
Yeah.
Yeah, I actually went. Let's go back to this. I actually did a more purplish hue. So we can see right there again. Let's go back to again. Let's go actually go back to where is not that's not it. Content collection game core. That's cool that it's colored now there as well. Uh, Player state. So we've got call this primary color, and then I'll make a new variable secondary. Not really. No, I mean we could make an array, but it's only gonna be two elements. Yeah, I mean like if we had like for what? What about the other one? What are we talking about? Oh, I understand what you're saying. Hold on, let me finish what I'm doing here first. Instance editable. So here I'm going to do red, and here um, alpha one. There it goes. So I got the blue, I got the red and purple going on here. Oh, so what we're saying, what you're saying is somewhere I'm going to make an array of colors. Um, so I'd actually make a blueprint class, basically a utility class that basically where I would it would be I'd be able to reference that class. Either that or it would be in the game mode where I could make where I set an array of different colors and then have like a function that basically calls pick random color out of that array. That's might be in the game mode. Um, I don't know if it'd be its own blueprint class. It's one of those. I'm not sure it would be its own blueprint class because then I gotta be referencing that and yeah, unless it's in the game, it's something in the game mode that I'm assigning. But that's kind of clunky. I might want to just set that in the game mode, have array of basically colors, and then basically have pick a random color out of that array. I might store the integer in the array, just on the sake of basically, so I wouldn't double up on the same color effectively. That's the only reason why I'd store that. Um, but that means let me just compile this. back in the here's the player state. Yeah, so basically, if I was doing that, then I'd have two integers here. That primary color index and secondary color index, just so that when I did the color pick, I'd pick a color, and then the second go around, I'd pass a number. I'd pass no, I'd use the same function. I just pass a -1. Yeah, I just pass a -1 for the prime. So when the primary color don't pick this color, I just pass a -1, and then the secondary color I pass whatever the primary color returned back to. Again, now we're talking, now we're getting into more features and more polish. But that's, I could then on each on begin play each pawn, and then again, where would that be? I mean, that could exist in the collection pawn. It could exist in the game mode. I would want to pass that color to, I would probably want to do replicate the color so that like on the HUD I could use the primary color to draw stuff. I could use that to my advantage there to draw things using that, having that color as a reference. And it could be as much as like I have an image here, or I make two images and they match. They lay over top each other pretty nicely. And so one is I make that one the primary color and the other one the secondary color based on, and again it's replicated here. Again, we can dig into this and add things to this as we see fit. There's a lot that we need to do. I mean, the next big thing that we're going to do is basically be able to set up, basically have the next big question is basically connecting, literally making a build of the game now, and then so we'll clean this up so we have a game loop and an exit application button. That'll be useful. And then basically have a connect to another server type scenario. But we're on our way to building a small application. We're not building anything crazy as of yet. And there's still a lot like things that we can still do, such as like the teleporting object that currently depends on that. It's going to lie on a value of z. The z is going to be 0 all the time. So if we did anything with terrain, that breaks. We did anything with like the original third person map, that's going to break. It will teleport into objects so effectively, which is not what we want. So yeah, there's still again a lot that again we took, but the good news is that we've taken that assignment from the 1306 class, and we've upgraded it to some basic replication. And we now have, with that in play, we have a base to figure out what are the next pieces. And through this took longer to build. Um, part of the issue was that I had to revise the slide. Again made basically all new slides for the collection game, so that you all had a baseline of what you needed in order to go from here to the next step to replicate.
Thank you for that, by the way.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So it took longer to get this up and going. So future classes is basically you're going to have a benefit of the work, basically the struggles you've gone through this term. Not as bad as last term. You're not class isn't over yet, but um we managed to go get off of C++ into Blueprint, and and we were able to understand the principles of what we're doing in Blueprint, which is cool. Um, are we missing some things because we're not using C++? Yes, there's probably some things that I mean we're getting the game up and running and built in Blueprint. But there is you, it is the engine is built on C++, and it's something that you should, again, it is, we are struggling with that portion of the engine. But like you did, there were some things that happened in, um, so that first tutorial, you did learn things about the replication system. There are things that you had to do, like you had to tell, in C++, you had to set up the variable to not just be tagged as replicating, but also tagged within the system to be replicated as well. We had to talk about how, um, we had events in, we had the on replication stuff, and we did some of that here in Blueprint, and we did some of that. And the other one was that you basically, the big one is basically how do we get our RPC calls? They're events. We set the event to replicate. Is it reliable? Where does it run? And then we did the implementation essentially. And that was a huge piece to getting, again, once we understood that piece and how it works, it made for me setting up the player name much easier because it was just an event. I created the event here, and it's just called the button basically calls the event and passes the information. Is there anything that you want me to go over one more time? Again, I'm still recording.
This all this information is also. Did you also like put it in slides, or is
I
it?
have not. I'm starting building the slides. That's the next step is to actually for me to go back and set up and go through and say this is the slides that we need to do. Like again, here's the HUD. Here's how we set up the HUD.
All right. So for now, it's just the lecture,
Right now, I'm recording the lecture right now, going over what I did, so that I have at least this lecture recorded.
and then we'll actually do it like
Yeah, yeah, you
months
should.
later.
Yeah, yeah. No, your assignment was always to do this. It's just you all, I think you all hit a wall in terms of the level of knowledge you have. And it was just a matter of time for me to get. Again, I had to get the again, the issue was I had to get the first year class, the first term, that 1603 1306, sorry, 1306 class set. So you had a baseline into what you needed in order to upgrade to replicate.
Right. So my question is, next class, are we doing all this?
Yeah, you're pretty much now going through the process that I've just shown you to get it to replicate.
Got it. So
And you will have this, again, everything that I've been talking about so far is now, again, I'm recording it right now, and it'll be up on YouTube like the other lectures.
okay, so like today was a lecture day. Got it.
Yeah, today ended up being a lecture day.
That was my question. All
Yep.
right, cool. That's great.
Yeah. And then again, the next step we will upgrade. Again, I got to document the, again, it's document what I did in the 1306 class with the HUD, so that, because basically that's kind of where we want to go. The question with the way I built the 1306 class is I did everything is a single. The whole game is in a single map. So there's a main menu. There's a game. You go from the main menu to the game over, back to the main menu. And the question here is, do we want to remain in that paradigm, or do we have a main? So the question that comes down to, do we need a main menu map from which you then connect to a game, and then from there either continue to another server, or a new instance, another map, Like again, this is thinking like Unreal Tournament. Then you basically go from the main menu to a server running a map, and then basically when that map ends, the map goes to a server goes to another map, and you all that's the transition, the traveling that they're talking about. Or do we go back to the main menu? It's one of those. We will find out. What is the correct? It's basically what is the correct paradigm to show here, which means I have to update. If that's the case, I have to go back and change the 1306 class to because that makes sense. Then because then you'd be further along with the game. Again, we're gonna upgrade it from that to here. So if it makes sense to do the main menu map and jump back and forth, I should do that in 1306. So there's a that class is doing things to set up things over here in this class.
All right. So I think that's everything.
That's pretty much it. Any other questions? Um, Now that I've like laid it out and showed you like how you needed to do it, does it make sense?
Yeah, it makes sense.
Makes sense. That's good.
I mean, I might get a little help seeing the step by step and how it's put together, but that's what the slides are going to be for.
I mean that I've got you. You're gonna have this lecture because I've gone through and I've shown you what I needed to do here, what I needed to do here, what I needed to do here.
Right.
Yeah. One of the things I was trying, one of the things that I was trying to do.
Oh, wait, hold on.
Hold on a sec.
Did we go over the creation of player state and game state? Like,
We talked about that. We talked about they're just basically blueprint classes from
yeah,
game
but of
state.
what? Because there are multiple different kinds of blueprint classes.
No, no,
There's
it's just game state
HUD.
base. So the game state is going to inherit from game state base.
Okay, which already exists in
Yes,
our projects.
that's a core Unreal class.
So, like, these are basically
So
kind of
like game
child classes.
Yes, so we're making a
Got
child
it.
of a core class already. So like pawn is a core class, and actor is a core class, and game state base. I'm sorry, game mode base is a core class that we inherited from. Basically, this the child, the parent here is game state base,
Got it.
and
And
then
player state is also inherent from game state, or is it from a different?
no, it's a different. It's player state is going to be from the player state class,
Oh, got it.
which is
Okay.
yeah
Just wanted to double check that.
yeah. So
Because I
this,
saw they had like special symbols to
they
represent
do.
them.
They do. And you'll pick that up. But again, the big thing here is that like your player controller has a player state class that which holds your player information, specific player information.
All right, that was my only question. I'm good now.
Okay. All right. We good? Anything else I need to cover? Nate, if you're listening, now's your time to say something. Okay. Nate is online. That's why I'm asking.
Ah,
Okay. So I'm going to stop the recording here.